Hi, the other day I made a video about victim mentality, victim consciousness, and how it can hold us back and why we shouldn't get into it. But are you in the victim conscious? Do you have a victim mentality? And how do you know? In this video, we're going to take a look and we're going to find out 5 signs that you're living in a victim mentality. Okay, so if we look at victim mentality, uh, it's obviously not good. But is it obvious to you that you're living a victim mentality? So, what are the signs? And we obviously think there's obvious things like, not being responsible, moaning and groaning, but sometimes it can be more subtle. And to some degree, we can all fall into victim consciousness from time to time, or in some aspects of our life, or victim consciousness. Basically, if you weren't in victim consciousness, like 100% outside of victim consciousness, you'd be Mr. or Mrs. Super confident all the time. So we all have a little bit, but we shouldn't have too much. So what are signs? The first sign I'm going to say is lack of belief in yourself. You lack a belief that you can achieve things. You don't believe that you can achieve things. Now, we can all have a degree of this. We have a thing called a comfort zone. And the comfort zone is basically you're comfortable doing something and you're not comfortable doing something new. So the first day in a new college or new job, new group of people, we might feel shy. If we're asked to stand up on stage and speak, of course, you might feel shy. If you've never been to a swimming pool before, the first time in the pool, you might feel shy. So obviously we have a comfort zone, and the more we practice something, the more we get comfortable even with something new. So you go through a stage of being very uncomfortable and then getting more and more comfortable. But if you're doing this all the time, if in general, throughout your life, I don't believe I can do this course, I don't believe I can talk to this possible romantic partner, because they'll never talk to me, I won't apply for the job, I'll never do the course, I'll never do anything. If it's a repetitive pattern that you just don't believe in yourself, it's a first sign that you are lacking uh, self confidence based upon the feeling that you're a victim. You do not feel self empowered. The second sign is inner critic in overdrive. Now, I've mentioned this before in other videos. The inner critic is a two edged sword, in that early in life we develop this kind of critical faculty. And it gives us a conscience to know what's right and what's wrong, and it helps guide us, called the inner critic. Now, if you are in victim consciousness, this inner critic is going to be in overdrive because the inner critic doesn't have a brain. You have a thing called, you have your conscious mind up here, subconscious mind down there, okay? And it's like, in the body, your brain, your head is up here, you think, and down there at your body. But it has its own awareness in a way, but it's not like sentient in the way that we're sentient. And it's programmed. How do you get an inner critic? It's programmed by the things people say to you, what your parents say to you, your neighbors, your school teachers, your siblings. Don't do this, don't do that, you're bad, you're naughty, all of these things. And some of them are valid, and some of them are not valid. And the problem we tend to have with the inner critic is we take it too seriously and then we get kind of upset because we feel we make judgments. So it's not just don't cross the street, might get hit by the car. It's you're bad because you're crossing the street. Okay, so it has this negative emotion usually thrown into it. And we can work on the inner critic to reduce it. But as a rule of thumb, if your inner critic is very active, you must feel like a victim. Because if you got this inner punitive voice, why is it there? It's there because you're programming saying, you're not worthy, you're not good, you're useless, you're bad, you're this, you're that. And so the inner critic really goes into overdrive. When you are feeling disempowered, it becomes extra oppressive. And guess what? The more empowered you become, the less oppressive the inner critic comes. So the inner critic is just a structure in mind, a useful structure, but it's like, is it the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog? The inner critic has its use, but it shouldn't be in overdrive. Sign number three. Sign number three is self-sabotage. And that could be things like you start something, but you never finish it. You procrastinate. You do a course for 3 years, you drop out a month before the course finishes. You train in a certain job, and then just when things are going good, you drop out of it. You're in a relationship, and just when it's going good, you drop out of it. You do silly things like you park your car without the handbrake on, and it rolls down the hill and destroys itself. You forget to switch off the gas. okay? You burn something, all right? So self-sabotage is there in 1,000 ways. If you're self-sabotaging, it's always a victim consciousness. Because what the self-sabotage means is there's some aspect of you, of yourself. We got things called subpersonalities. There was a movie out maybe 2016, 2017 called Inside Out. Nice cartoony movie, and it's about this girl, and she has little sub-personalities. And I think it's a nice way of portraying in your mind you got sub-personalities, okay? Little mini versions of you. And it means that some of them are not happy, and some of them are trying to get at you. Because, again, this victim consciousness, so self-sabotage means there's aspects of you who are angry. There's aspects of you who are upset. There's aspects of you who feel unnourished are trying to get at you. And what you have to understand is that human beings have a thing called libido. Now, we tend to think of libido as sex drive, but it's broader than that. When Sigmund Freud, the famous psychoanalyst, came out with the idea of libido, he actually meant drive, and it just got misinterpreted in translation from German to English as like sex drive. Now, sex drive is an aspect of drive, but it's just an aspect. It's actually drive. So you have various drives within you. So these are needs rather than wants. We want all sorts of things, but we also have a need, all right? So for example, let's say we take an artist, all right? A person might want to sing or dance or act, but then another person might have to sing, dance, act, or write or whatever. Is it a need or is it a want? So there's a difference between I want to play my guitar and I have to play my guitar. So for some people, they have a need for self-expression. That's very strong, an artistic person. Some people have a strong need for stability. Some people have a strong need to prove themselves to others. So there's a difference between your need and your want. And the thing is, you can suppress your wants, but you can't suppress your needs. Now, I'm going to get back to the self-sabotage in a second, but let's just move on to the next point. The next one is controlled by others. And very powerful. There's an explicit control and there's an implicit control. Now, the explicit control is where people dominate you, okay? If you're dominated by a husband, a wife, a father, a kid, a sibling, a boss, a neighbor, anyone who's dominating you, and this is pretty obvious that you say we'll go somewhere and it's no, not going, we're going to somebody else, and they keep forcing you to do what they want, and you have no voice, and you feel that you can't stand up to them, and you feel that you can't say anything against them, well, that's them dominating you, okay? That's very unhealthy, 100%. If you're in a relationship where you're dominated by somebody else, you are playing the victim. And you have to get out of that. And this is going to be complex and thorny, but it's definitely there. The other aspect, of course, is a more passive-aggressive. What's passive-aggressive? Passive-aggressive is where you pretend to be nice, but there's aggression behind it. And this is where you try to please people because you think you cannot please yourself. You think that if I can make others happy, they're going to give me what I need. Because what I need is that inside me, they have what I need. So I'm going to run after them, and I'm going to make them happy. And the problem with that is you spend so much time and energy making other people happy and not making yourself happy. Well, what happens in the long run? Well, what happens in the long run is you probably want to make them as happy as you like. And you will get more frustrated and upset, which leads to the last point on our list. Bitter and resentful. Are you feeling bitter and resentful? And chances are, if you're not looking after your own needs, if you're looking after everybody else trying to make them happy, you'll find that they're not giving you what you want. And because they're not giving them what you want back, you start feeling that life is not giving you what you want. I'm working so hard and nobody appreciates me. I'm doing so much and nobody helps me. It's always like this for me. I can't get what I want. Everything's terrible. Everybody's a user, okay? Because you're not getting nourished inside. You're not getting looked after because you're looking after other people. There's two problems with looking after people. One is they can't give you what you want. They don't have it. Only you have what you want. Nobody can give you what you want, okay? Number two is when you run after people all the time and when you're a doormat and when you're dominated, usually people, law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, people usually dominate you, use you, and abuse you. So that's the other thing. You will be unappreciated, all right? You'll be like Cinderella, basically. Remember Cinderella? She had the auntie and the ugly sisters and how they used to abuse her all the time. She was a victim. Of course, being a fairy tale, Prince Charming would save her. Well, this is largely true apart from the prince and the saving bit. In reality, she'd have to find her vice, kick some ass, and maybe leave that house and find her own Prince Charming. That would be closer to reality. But the point is that you're going to feel bitter and upset if you're constantly looking for other people to give you what you want. And also, if you're being a doormat, they're definitely not going to give you what you want because they're definitely not going to appreciate you. They might be nasty about it, like the ugly sisters, or they might be nice about it. But either way, they won't give you what you want. And this is a fundamental problem of victim consciousness. The fundamental problem of victim consciousness, I am a victim, somebody else has to fix me. And nobody can fix you. Let's say matchmaking, for example. I remember when I was young and I was, looking for girlfriends and stuff, and I sometimes have friends try to matchmake me. And pretty much every time they come up with somebody who's ridiculous, totally bad match, I think these people, my friends or my relatives, they think that this is the sort of person, they know anything about my personality, where they're trying to match you with somebody who's totally unlike me in 100% of the ways. The reality is, they didn't know me, nor should they know me. I mean, I'm their friend or their relative, but only I can know my romantic ideals. I should be looking for that somebody, and I should be vetting the process, okay? So let's just tie this up and have a look at it again. So, when you're victim consciousness, you do not believe in yourself. Your inner critic is in overdrive. You have a tendency to drop out. Others control you, and you tend to be bitter and resentful. 5 things. We could go and speculate more, but that's a good mix of 5. Now, remember I talked about the subpersonalities and sabotage? Okay. Basically, the problem with victim consciousness is that you are not responsible. You want somebody else to fix everything for you. The reality is everybody's too busy running their own life. And they've got their own inner complexities. And their inner complexities are different from yours. So really, you have to fix your own life. Only you know what you need. Now, if you're busy not believing in yourself, not following your dreams, trying to please other people, and hoping that something outside of you will fix you, well, what happens to those inner subpersonalities, those actual needs that you have? Because each human being has certain special spectrum of abilities, okay? And you will find an amazing satisfaction when you start channeling your gifts. But if you repress your gifts, if you try to become a cookie cutter version of yourself, then you're going to hold yourself back. And this is why you will have self-sabotage problems. If you're having self-sabotage problems, it means that some aspect of you are being abused. What I mean abused is they're not getting their freedom. And the only way, because you're the one in the driving seat, you're the one in the driving seat, you're the one, the conscious mind. So they can only prod you with, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. If that doesn't work, they'll make you forget to go and put the parking brake on. They'll make you forget to put off the gas. Okay. They'll make you forget to pay your bill on time or whatever. They will start irritating you. And the reason they're irritating you is the only way they can get attention is by being passive aggressive, because they don't have a body. They don't have a voice. They're subpersonalities. So this is the key. Number 1 is if you see things like self-sabotaging behavior, okay? And then you look back at, am I following my dreams? Am I doing what I should be doing in life? Am I expressing myself? And you'll probably see that in some way you're not. I went through a period of my life where I used to self-sabotage a lot. These days it's very rare. And it's because I'm more in tune with who I am, okay? So if you look at that list, it's all based upon feeling like a victim, feeling like I'm not in control, and somebody outside is going to fix me. So there's a list of 5. I could make a list of 8. I could make a list of 10 or 15. But just think of what's behind it. What's behind it is, in some way or other, I don't feel empowered. Now, we can all have a little bit of victimhood, and we can all feel a little bit disempowered. But when I start turning into things like inner critic, out of control, and a lot of self-sabotage, that means you got big issues. Because we're all going to have a little bit of victimhood, unless we're super advanced. I mean, I've been working at this sort of self-help thing, going back to maybe 92, 93, something like that. And, I would look at myself now and see that psychologically speaking, I'm pretty peaceful and happy about a lot of things because a lot of things being balanced. And this is the whole idea of psychology, is balance things out and feel better. But I still don't always feel super empowered, and I still have my challenges and still my aspects of victim consciousness. So we might all have some insecurities, but victim consciousness should not be out of control. And victim consciousness is not always as obvious as somebody who's just like always just moaning and groaning. Yeah, there's people like that who got victim consciousness, and in that case, you might say they're a toxic person. But it can also just be something simple like not believing yourself. And the two big warning signs are a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of inner criticism, okay? In the follow-up video, I'll talk about how to tackle victim mentality and how to get over it. But just think of the big picture of what we said here today. It all comes down to feeling like a victim and giving your control, giving your power to somebody else, and obviously then feeling frustration and upset, which then makes you worse and more of a victim because it's a self-defeating cycle, okay? Okay, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe and check out the video tomorrow for the next one. And I'll talk to you next time.